What is going on, everybody? This is the Undefeated by Choice podcast brought to you by Stillfist. We just had the Jon Jones, Dominic Reyes UFC 247 fight last night, and I have to say I was pleasantly surprised. Anybody who watched any of my lead-up conversation to the whole card heard me bad-mouthing it and saying it was going to be a terrible card, and I wasn't looking forward to paying for it and buying it, and I was going to do it anyways because it's my job. And I have to say I watched the entire card from start to finish, and I was very happy with a lot that I saw. Of course, everyone's going to talk about how terrible the judging was, which at times it was awful. But before I get into that, we are on the heels of the Stillfist fight card here in Utah, Salt Lake City, Union Event Center, February 21st. Doors open at 6, fight start at 7. Make sure you get your tickets to stillfistfight.com. I'll talk more about that after I finish my thoughts on the Jones-Reyes fight, and I'm going to piss some people off. I know it already with my opinion, what I think on it, but this is just my opinion, how I truly feel about the fight and how, what went down. And I'm going to say it. I'm going to start out by saying I'm not a Jon Jones fanboy. I like him. I think that he's the greatest fighter of all time. I don't hate him. I don't wish that he loses. But I'm not he's not my favorite fighter. He's not, he's, as a matter of fact, in this fight, he lost me quite a bit of money. I didn't bet against him. I did, the online stuff. I don't know if I can legally say what it is, but I was on FanDuel, I believe it is, and and I didn't bet against him. I just didn't have him in my lineup, in my pick, just because he was so expensive, and so was Valentina, so I didn't pick either of them. And apparently the rest of the world did, because up into the Jon fight, I had 2,500. I had won 2,500, and then after their fight, after his fight, I definitely did not walk away with that much, anywhere near that much money. So yeah, I mean, him winning did me no favors. It actually messed things up for me. But I have to look at this with just my opinion and what I saw in the fight, and I did not see Reyes win that fight. I saw Jon win the fight. And let me explain to you why. Obviously, the judge who gave 4-1 rounds to Jon is an idiot and should not be involved with fighting, because that's not how I saw it. Obviously, Reyes in the first 1 and 2 rounds came at Jon with everything he had, was throwing heavy hands, lots of hands, hard hands. I mean, it was an impressive display, and he did exactly what my thought was, which was, if he's going to win this fight, he has to blitz Jon. He just has to come out and not let Jon dictate the pace, not let Jon dictate the distance, and that's exactly what he did. He'd be throwing combos, and Jon would try to escape and get out, and get back, reset, and Reyes would chase him down, throwing kicks to the body, kicks to the head, and he would just chase him down, was just constantly on him, constantly bringing pressure, constantly, being in his face. And did exactly what I thought his game plan needed to be, because we see what happens when you let Jon dictate the pace, and we see what happens when you let him dictate the distance. So I think Reyes had the right game plan. He did the right thing. He was cracking Jon, hitting him with a lot of shots in those first 2 rounds. And you can even say a lot in the 3rd round that he was doing it. But this is where I think that Jon... this is where I think that Reyes didn't win the fight. So I'm not a big fan of scorecards anyways. I feel like they're essential, because sometimes you just have to sit down and say, all right, who landed more, who was more effective, who had more effective shots, and who controlled the distance, or who controlled while they're on the ground and stuff like that. Like, I understand that they're necessary, that they are a necessary evil, you could say. I get it, but I don't. For me personally, since I'm not a judge, since I don't have any skin in the game on that, I just look at a fight, the totality of the fight. I look at the fight and try to judge it on the fight as a whole, and what I'm seeing at the end of the fight. And that's more important to me than the scorecards, is what I'm essentially seeing in the later rounds of the fight. And so let me explain to you why I see John winning. You see the first few rounds, and it's just Reyes pouring it on John. But what you're also seeing is John continuing to walk forward, continuing to control the center of the octagon. And in the first round, not really so much, because Reyes was just so busy moving forward, so busy running forward, running at John, blitzing John, throwing heavy combinations, hard combinations, long combinations. And so in the first round, not so much. But pretty much after that, you see John continuing to move forward, continuing to control the center of the octagon, be in Reyes' face. And Reyes is doing a great job on slipping, from side to side and firing off shots, but it's still John, being there, moving forward, and Reyes kind of circling from side to side or backwards. And then, you get into the later rounds, and it was way more prevalent in those rounds that John was just going to keep moving forward and keep walking, stalking Reyes down. And so you have to understand that, you look at the TriStar's head coach, Faraz. He's a proponent that we shouldn't even have time limits. We should just go, you should just go till someone gives up, till it's over, or till someone gets knocked out, or someone submits, or someone gives up. And he says, that's the true test of, who's the tougher guy. And you're going to see people, use their energy a lot different. And you're going to see people using their, trying to work on their gas tanks a lot more. Like, you're really going to see who's tougher if we just eliminate the time altogether. And if we were to do that, if we were to say, okay, take the time limit off this fight and see who's going to be standing at the end, I think you'd be crazy to say that Reyes was going to be the one standing at the end of that. Just because we saw in the fifth round, he really wasn't doing a whole lot. John was pouring it on him and looked fresh and looked, like he still had 3 or 4 rounds to go, maybe even more. I mean, he looked real fresh in the fifth round, and Reyes was completely gassed. Rightfully so. Rightfully so. He was doing a great job. But John was wearing all of his punches. John didn't get dazed. I mean, he didn't. If he did, he didn't show it. He went down once, and it was obviously a slip. You watch it; it looked very clear to be a slip from the get-go. The announcing team was kind of like questioning, "Oh, I think he might have slipped. I don't know." And I was like, well, yeah, that was clear. That wasn't even a question. He completely did. So he only went down one time, and it was due to a slip. And slipped is the word I was looking for. So I didn't see John really getting dazed. He was walking forward. He was just stalking forward. He knew Reyes was going to land some stuff, but it wasn't even really phasing him too much. And then you look at him after the fight, and he wasn't beat up, his face, so he wasn't even wearing the beating very well. So if you're really going to just go off of totality of punches, maybe Reyes won, but it wasn't really affecting John that much. And so, like I said, in the fifth round, he was exhausted, and John was still moving forward. So if you're going to go off of if you were to go without a time limit, who would have been the first one to go down? My money all day would have been on Reyes being the one going down, because John just looked fresh. And he was in the fight just as much as Reyes was. It wasn't like he was, backing up the entire time and running away the entire time and doing this the entire time. He was being strategic with his energy. He was being strategic with his efficiency. But it is. I think he was. At the end of the day, he would have been the one standing. And then, he went for the 2 takedowns, and credit to Reyes. I mean, for me breaking this whole thing down, there's no disrespect towards Reyes. He brought the fight. He absolutely brought the fight and did better than a lot of people gave him credit for. Better than I gave him credit for. I thought he was going to be really good. I didn't think he was going to be that good, but that's a hair more than what I thought. I really was impressed with him and thought he was going to do a good job. But I really felt that John was always going to win this fight, and it was going to be this exact same way. This is how he was going to do it. John was eating punches from DC, who's knocking heavyweights out. Like I said, I didn't think that the power of Reyes was really going to be an issue. I just don't think it was. I think, if I was to get into a fight in the parking lot with a random person, and I'm throwing punches on them, and they're just walking. Even if they put their hands down, they're like, hit me, and I've been hitting them, and they're, hit me, and they're just walking forward, allowing me to hit them, and then firing off shots. You probably wouldn't say that I won that fight, because my punches aren't really doing much to him. They're doing so little to him that he's walking forward like this ain't nothing. That's kind of what was happening in that fight at the end, because Reyes had hit him with his best shot. And if you don't think that Reyes hit him with his best shot, you weren't watching, because Reyes was hitting with everything. And at the end, John was still walking forward and bringing the pressure and shooting for takedowns and expending energy, and still looked more fresh. So I got to look at the totality of the fight, because I'm not using a scorecard. There's a reason I don't ever sit down with a scorecard and try to score it myself. There's a reason I don't do that, because I don't think scorecards are really the final say of who actually won the fight. The fight, this whole thing was to see, which was the best martial art. And now that no one practices just one martial art, now it's who can string that all together the best, and who's just the tougher guy. And at the end of the day, I think if you were to look at the fight in the full 5 rounds, instead of breaking it down in between, well, he won this round, he won this round, he won this round. If you were to string it together as one long fight, you would have seen Reyes start hot and John finish hot. And at the end of the day, if I've taken all your shots and I'm still finishing with power, in my mind, that's the guy who wins the fight. So that's why I don't question that John won that fight. I don't think that it was a bad call. I think that it was the right call. Now, I think if you're going off of points and stuff, and you're going off your judging card or your scorecard, giving 4-1 rounds to John is insane. But that's neither here nor there. And, again, going back to the scorecards, if you are going to say, well, if the scorecards are this way and this is how we judge the fight, so this is how we have to do it, well, then you can't say that Derek Lewis won that fight. And we all wanted Derek Lewis to win. Everyone loves the Black Beast. We all love him. But he, in 2 of the 3 rounds, he got taken down. He got controlled on the ground. And, in the stand-up, it wasn't completely one-sided. Derek wasn't really landing a whole lot. He was throwing a lot more, and he was throwing with a lot more power and a lot more intent, but he wasn't truly landing until the very last round and the very last minute and a half. So, for him to win that fight, for people to say, well, he won, no, because he did this and that, you're just breaking it down because of the person that you wanted to see win. Because if we're going off the scorecards, he definitely should not have won that fight. But to my point, what I'm saying, he was the guy that looked more fresh at the end of the fight. He was still walking forward towards the end of the fight, throwing heavier punches, going at it, putting the pressure on. And if the fight had no time limit, he would have won. So if you go off of my way of scoring, Derek Lewis won. And he is the one that won. So, you have 2 instances on the same card where if you're gonna go off the scorecards, one guy had to lose and the other guy, should have won. The opposite of what did happen should have been what happened. But if you go off of the way that I believe that it should be scored, it was the way it went down, the way that it was supposed to go down. John Jones should have won that fight, and Derek Lewis should have won that fight. So, that's just my opinion. That's my final thoughts on the John Jones Reyes card. Let me know what you think. I've been having a few people, comment on these, and I love it. I love the fan interaction or the listener interaction. And I did make a mistake and say that Yoel Romero speaks Cuban, and he actually, in fact, speaks Spanish. And I knew that, and I even looked it up. I was recording this earlier, and I was like, what language does he speak? Is it Portuguese? Is it this? And I had to make sure I knew, and I looked it up, and I had stopped my recording, and I recorded a whole nother video, and then I went back to it, and then I said he speaks Cuban. So I know what language Yoel Romero speaks, and I apologize. Lo siento. My bad. Okay, so now, Still Fist, Rectify, February 21st. The card that I think, or the fight that I think will most closely resemble the John Jones Dominic Reyes fight is our main event. Cole Schaefer and Nick Martinez. I honestly think that we're going to see a good stand-up battle. And I really do think there's going to be times that Cole will shoot. And I really have a really strong feeling that Nick's going to be able to get back up to his feet. I think that Cole is a phenomenal wrestler. There's no question about that. But Cole likes to bang. He likes to stand. So he doesn't really fight too hard to keep people on the ground. He doesn't really that's not really his main objective, like a Khabib, where it's I get you down, I'm going to keep you down until the end of the round or until I finish you. Cole kind of he definitely doesn't let anybody up, but he doesn't mind standing up and banging. And I think Nick is real slick on the ground. I think he's got some good moves on the ground, and I think he's been working really hard this fight camp because of the strength of the wrestling that Cole has. I think he's been working really hard on defense, takedown defense, and getting back up and getting to your feet and getting into the striking zone. So I really think we're going to see just a pure stand-up battle. I don't think there's going to be a point where the fight really goes to the ground. I think that and then once it gets to the feet, it's anyone's ball game, because even if anyone has an advantage in the striking, it still is both these guys have power. Both these guys have knockout power. They both throw in volume. So we're gonna see a lot of fun striking, a lot of good striking. So I think that the main event is going to be the fight is going to be an excellent fight to close the show. I think it's going to be an all-out war. I did say yesterday that I think Fight of the Night's probably going to go to Hayden and Craig Grove. And I think the reason I say Fight of the Night is I think it will be a faster pace, and so it'll be a little more exciting because it's going to be pretty chaotic in there in that fight. But if you go in length of fight and skills shown, it may go to Cole and Nick. But there's so many other fights on the card. There's so many other fun fights on the card, and I'm going to try to get into more of those as the week goes on, as I do more of these. But I wanted to go back to the Cole and Nick fight because I was kind of I feel like this might be a very similar fight. I feel like this might be a very similar fight to what we just saw. And hopefully it doesn't go to the judges' hands, because we have really good judging here in Utah, but for any fighter, you just don't want it to do that. You don't want any questions. You don't want any controversy. You don't want anything left unanswered. So for both of them, I hope somebody gets a finish. I'll be interviewing Cole today, but his interview won't be out till Friday. And so I'll have that out. I'll have that interview out for you. I'm going to talk to him about the Jones-Reyes fights, get his thoughts on it. But get your tickets now. February 21st is the card that you do not want to miss. We just keep putting out good cards. Last card I was so excited about. I was so pumped about. And then all of a sudden this card comes rolling around and I'm just as excited, just as ready for it. And it's going to be a hell of a night. Get your tickets now, stillfistfight.com. If you know any fighters on the card, make sure you buy your tickets from them. It helps the fighter directly. If you want to be a sponsor for this podcast, reach out to me. You know how to get a hold of me. You know my name. You know where I'm at. So I'm always looking for help. I would love to do this full time, man. I would love to break this down and give you my opinion full time on fighting and just watch fights all day. So but any little bit helps. I'm not looking for someone to, pay my salary. Any little bit helps. So if you are looking to be a sponsor, get your name out here. Get your name out. Make sure you get a hold of me or Still Fist. You can do sponsorships through them as well. You can find this podcast and these solo episodes on YouTube only under Undefeated by Choice. You can find the fighter interviews on iTunes and iHeartRadio under their podcast apps. You can find us on Facebook at Still Fist Fight Night and on Instagram at Still Fist Fight. Get your tickets now. I'm not joking. It's an excellent way to spend your Saturday night. It's a good time. It's an all ages show, so you can bring your kids. If you don't want to bring your kids and you want to have some drinks, you can do that. You go upstairs and you watch the fight from above, from the bird's nest, as I like to call it. And it's a good family environment. It's a good environment for a date. It's a good solo. It's a good night to go out with your boys or with your girls. It's just a good night all around. It's a great place to be. It's a great environment. If you've never come, this is a card to come to. If you've been before, this is a card to come back to. And if you're there every week or every month, we love you. We love the support. But until next time, be good to yourself. Be good to each other. I love you.